Welcome to the Mortgage Marketing Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Shive. And in case my voice sounds unfamiliar, I am not Jeff, obviously, but I am doing a guest takeover today on behalf of Jeff. And I'm really excited to share the interview with you. So today I'm going to be interviewing Kayla Calendar. She is a top producing loan officer out of North Dakota. She is really active on social media, specifically LinkedIn and Instagram, and she helps a lot of first time home buyers. Now, that might sound cliche, but if you follow her online, you'll see she is helping a lot of first time home buyers every single month. And she is really passionate about that. So, we're going to get into that a bit in today's episode. We're going to talk a little bit about her involvement with First Home IQ and all of the things that make her special. So, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So, Kayla, I'm really excited to have you on today's show. And for those listening that might not know of you, Kayla Calendar, tell us like the 30,000 foot view. Like, how would someone describe you? Like, you are in North Dakota, you work at a bank. Like, there's so many things that you do differently than the normal loan officer, which is why we're really excited to talk to you today. So, for everybody listening, tell us like who you are and what are you doing?
Loaded answer. Get ready. Okay, I'm Kayla Calendar. I live in Fargo, North Dakota. Yes. Anytime I meet someone, they're like, "You're really from Fargo?" I didn't know they have blonde girls in Fargo. But yes, Fargo, North Dakota. Born and raised in North Dakota. Grew up on a farm. Graduated with a class of 29. I don't know why I use that as like a measurement, but lets you know how small of a town I'm from.
Small town. Okay.
Tiny. And then started working at a bank when I was 15 and got into business, went to college for business, and continued working in the banking field and ended up in mortgage accidentally, like most people. And for the last decade, I've been doing mortgages, which I always share. It's helping people get educated and empowered and understand in a world of chaos and lack of calm. That's kind of my superpower, is to help people understand the power behind why you should, own a home and all the numbers, all the things. There's so much to it, and have become wildly obsessed with it. And I have 4 rescue pit bulls that I'm also obsessed with. I'm married. I have a lake home that I travel to often because we don't travel that much otherwise. And what else? I love to sleep. Fun fact, I love sleeping. So that's my
Except, which is a side fact, because I feel like anytime you and I actually first met on Instagram, and we're going to get into your social media strategy because you definitely are super active on social media. But you and I actually first connected on Instagram in DMs. And what I always found fun about you is like, it felt like no matter when I would respond or reply, like you would reply back. And, I always think like I'm on, I'm in a different time zone and, I'm a mom, so I work different, crazy hours. And yet like, you're always really responsive. So you say you love sleep, but I'm like, do you ever sleep?
Yes, that's the one thing I do well is I have my Aura ring and I
You
love.
track your hours. That's awesome. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit. Like, okay, so you mentioned that you started working at a bank for 15, and obviously now you've transitioned into being a mortgage advisor for well over the last 10 years. And you currently work at a bank, which is, can you talk to me about how that is, different in the role that you serve versus if you were, at a traditional IMB or had gone the broker route?
I think a lot of people ask that question, why a bank? I work for a bank, that has a really great reputation in Fargo. And what's really great is there's a lot of different tools that we can provide a client from outside of the mortgage realm. So if they need a HELOC or maybe they need private banking, it's many arms that we can have, but also it allows me to remain really competitive with my pricing and fees. But what's really great about where I work is the reputation. Fargo is small. And I work at a company that has grown into this really great reputation. Now, working at an IMB or a broker, of course, there's value there. There's pros and cons anywhere you work, right? And I did, I was at an IMB for a short, 7 weeks, but who's counting? I've never worked at a broker, so I can't share the difference between like what I would experience. But there is this thing that Greg Share always shares, no pun intended, is, that all of us, whatever you want in your career and whatever you want to do and serve and what products and what setup, IMB, broker, bank, there's advantages, pros and cons with each. And I'm at a bank right now and I've been here for, gosh, 6 years. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So it's cool because, obviously you talk about you're in a small town and, there's differences in being in a small area versus a more urban area as well. Um, and so, yeah, you're, being at a bank that has a real strong community presence probably allows you to also do things with your personal brand that maybe wouldn't if you were at, a mortgage company that had no local presence.
Yeah, I think too, like the community piece is really important. First International is really involved with sponsoring and being, able to provide volunteer opportunities. And it's like anywhere you go, whether it's a sporting event or, out to eat, you see that we are really invested in our community. And when I think about being invested in the community, that's also home ownership. So in Fargo, North Dakota, it works really well to be, tied to this local brand and local bank.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, one of the things that I have heard you talk about through your social media presence primarily is you've specifically said this phrase prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. And the very first time I heard that, I mean, you're the first person I've ever heard use that phrase, but it really resonated with me. Obviously, it's a medical term, but you've applied that to your business. Can you explain, like, what does that exactly mean and why do you believe that that's true?
I 1,000% believe in that process. When you don't feel well or you think something is wrong, you don't just go to your doctor and say, "Hey, what do you prescribe?" You don't just ask for something when you've never been seen, x-rays haven't been done, blood work hasn't been ran, you haven't seen a doctor, right? The same applies for the largest purchase of your life. The biggest amount of money you will probably ever spend is on real estate, a home. But yet, a lot of us lenders get calls that say, "Hey, I'm calling around. What's my rate? What's the rate?" And in reality, I think, well, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to be 5 and a quarter? Do you want it to be 6 and an eighth? It truly depends on your scenario. And where I struggle to really give a client a rate is if I'm just guessing, I'm not helping that client at all. I could tell a client, yeah, your rate's 5 and a quarter, but it's going to cost them $27,000 at closing on their loan size. Or maybe they don't even want to pay money. Or maybe we need to talk less about rate and more about out of pocket, or more about renovation loans or construction. And so I really try to let my referral partners know, do not tell clients to just go shop rate. I mean, I wouldn't tell someone to go and find a realtor or a doctor and just say, go find the cheapest doctor that you can, and then let me know who you want to work with. So I go, again, going back to prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. For me to properly curate and prescribe and diagnose, I need to see your application, your financials, and then I need to do an analysis. I need to meet with my team, review the x-rays, talk to my, head of whatever you want to call it in the medical field, and find out what's going to work best for their goals. So that's where it came from.
Well, it's a really great analogy that makes sense. It's really common when you lay it out that way. What would you say is the cost to the person who is that like heavy focused rate shopper? Like, what does that really do to the client experience and just, that perception in general?
I think, like my rates and fees really competitively priced in my area, but you will always be able to find a cheaper rate. You can go online, make 10 dials and find a cheaper rate that day. Wait, 20 minutes and the rates move again. But when clients are just chasing a rate, they're not asking, how many loans have you done in Fargo, North Dakota? Have you ever done VA loans? What do your clients have to say about you? Do you close timely? Do you have an origination fee? There's so many things that go into this, and when all you're doing is chasing a rate, you are missing out on value. And I actually, Katie, I had a client last week, not around here. My rate was higher a little bit than some credit union in a small Minnesota town. And he's like, "So why would I use you if your rates, I think it was like an eighth higher?" And I said the same reason that you would choose your doctor or your personal trainer, or the fact that you would choose this car over that car. And I said, everybody has different needs and requirements. Does your lender respond after 5 p.m.? Katie, so many lenders turn off their phone. This weekend, I got out, I think it was 8 pre approval letters that clients needed as they were shopping. Is that important to you, or is the eighth percent better for that day?
Right,
Possibly
right.
the client is they are only taught to shop rate, but they're never really taught to not just shop lenders, interview lenders. Who do you jive with? Who has a really raving Google review, 100 reviews on Google that talks about their work ethic? I think that that's what clients miss out on when they're just shopping rate.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the same could be said to, your realtor partners as well, because I think realtors have also, this is a little bit different from just the traditional rate conversation, but I hear a lot that realtors, still give out the three cards. And I think you could apply that as well. How would you respond to that of, a realtor that still is like, well, I give out three cards and you're one of them?
So I actually had this conversation with a realtor and I said, you say I'm the best and you want your clients to work with me. Do you not feel it's in your client's best interest to work with me? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, then why are you doing them a disservice by, honestly, Katie, I feel like it confuses clients. They do 3 applications, they have 3 credit reports, they have a lender calling them and, with trigger leads happening, and then their phone's blowing up, and then this lender's telling them put 3% down, and this one's saying 4%. We all have different ways of helping somebody, but it confuses the client, and what I'm seeing is they give up. So what I do with realtors is I say, here's what I recommend. Say, go talk to Kayla. She will take care of you. She is the best. And tell them, go look online, go Google her. That way it's not just you and your word. If you're worried about, them having a bad experience, which that's not what this realtor's concern was at all. But I said, have them go and Google me and then say, talk to Kayla. And if she does not take care of you, let me know and I'll have other recommendations. Because then they're just talking with me. They're getting comfortable. This is a very vulnerable moment. And opening up about your financial situation to 3 strangers is scary. So I combat that with give them my info, tell them why they should use me, and then let's just start there and just tell them if it doesn't work out, I got 2 other people. So that's what I do, right, wrong, or
Yeah.
indifferent.
Yeah, no, that's a great approach too. And I think it really comes down to the level of trust and, value that you offer to your referral partners as well, and making sure that, you're really aligned in how you serve your clients and what they're needing. So one of the things that I find really unique about your approach is the diverse range of types of clients that you serve. So anybody that's listening, I would highly encourage you to go follow Kayla on Instagram and LinkedIn, and we'll have all of this, the links and stuff in the show notes. But you're really active on your stories, especially. And I feel like I see you constantly posting photos of helping, a first-time home buyer who's, young and in their early 20s, all the way up to, doctors and high-end net worth professionals, people buying their second homes. So it's like those are in and of themselves are pretty niched and can be very technical. So can you
Mhm.
talk to me about who would you define as some of your core clients that you serve? And how do you serve each of those personas or categories really well when they're so different?
They are so different. But one thing I've noticed quite a bit lately, probably in the last year, is that I have clients that are buying their 5th home and that no one has ever broken it down for them the way that I do. So they'll say, Kayla, this is my second, third, fourth home. I bought my lake home, and no one has ever told me that I could pay money for a lower rate. What are you talking about? Or that I didn't have to escrow taxes or insurance. Like,
Yeah.
what I'm finding is that you need to treat everybody the same. So, and that's just the approach that I take. So I will say, I'll have a discovery call and I'll get to know their hopes, their dreams, their fears. You'd be surprised that a, first time home buyer has similar fears as a client that's going to sell their first home and buy. They've never sold before. Or oh my gosh, I'm buying a second home or a vacation home. I've never had that. So I find a lot of similarities. But the differences that I see are, usually the ones that have bought before, they've been through it, so they get it for the most part. But there's just a different level of detail. But what I'm finding is you might have a first-time home buyer that's an engineer and is super detailed. You might have a doctor that's like, I don't even know if I escrow. Like it's so different yet so similar. So I just approach every single client the same. Very detailed, we're hands-on, and I ask them, do you want the high-level version or the detailed? And I let the client kind of decide, but what I find is if I treat them all the same, I kind of read the room and, kind of structure our plan for that client based on that.
Interesting. And so, I think one of the other things, like if I were to just kind of pinpoint what I could assume off of some of the differences is, talk about working with high net wealth professionals or doctors, for example. They don't hold traditional office hours in that like 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So do you find that even though maybe they're a little more knowledgeable about the process as opposed to a first time home buyer, their needs are still very different because of the career that they have, and how are you best positioned to serve them as a loan officer?
Especially doctors. I see so many that the time that they have to, meet with their spouse and get on a call, we always offer, if you cannot meet during traditional hours, let us know. A lot of times we're hopping on a Zoom on a Saturday morning. And there's so much gratitude from the client for that because we know how busy they are and how tired they are. You we always tell our clients, we know you're not going to probably find a home on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. So what we tell people is let's meet, let's talk when it works for you. I think that if you want to be competitive and you want to provide your clients a service based on their needs, you have to be flexible. Now, I'm not saying you need to meet with every client at 10 p.m. on a Friday night. You need to have boundaries in this industry because my goodness, they will get broken down so fast. But by being able to be flexible, I don't work 8 to 5. I work when my client needs me, and sometimes those doctors, those physicians, those dentists, and some first time home buyers. The option is a Sunday morning, and we do our best to accommodate that.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think they have different needs for sure. So let's bounce over a little bit more to first-time homebuyers as well, because you post a lot of that. Um, and I know I've seen some other things just going off of your profile and prepping for today's interview, that you're involved with First Home IQ. So what is your involvement with First Home IQ, and why do you have a sweet spot? I talk with a lot of loan officers and I actually almost get the opposite. I think as an industry, we know it's important, but then when you really break it down, some of the things that I hear of like, oh, they need a lot more education and their price point is lower and it takes a lot more time, like their runway time before they're available is longer. But maybe this is just the outside looking in. I don't get that impression from you. So what
Yeah.
is your opinion on first time homebuyers in that?
I just like heart is on fire when you talk about first time home buyers because
Can
what I've
tell.
what I've noticed, like this job is not for the faint of heart. It's stressful. There's so many hands in the pot. There's so many moving parts. There's people's, homes are on the line here. So when it comes to first time home buyers, Katie, what I found is they are so uneducated and they're so scared. And I actually, when a realtor or a client reaches out and they're like, hey, I've got a client, they're really nervous. I almost get excited because I'm like, oh, wait, when they meet with me, we're going to be best friends and we're going to talk. And so I have this like sensitive place for first time buyers because 9 out of 10 times they're given wrong information. Yeah, there's great information on TikTok and YouTube. There's great information, but it's almost information overload. They don't know who to believe, what to believe. Their dad's telling them about, when they bought, and this young TikToker's telling them this, but it's not applicable to their town. So when I can get a first time buyer just on a 15-minute call or Zoom, and I just say, let's talk. It's okay. You don't have to apply. We're not pulling credit. Just tell me what's motivating you to want to buy. Well, I have a dog and we're in an apartment and I've got, money saved up and I've wanted to put, holes in my wall or have a garden. Yesterday, a girl said, I just want to put my bare feet on grass. And I'm like, honey, yes, grass. And she's like, I hope this doesn't sound stupid. I just want to mow my lawn. And I said, no, I think that's
Mm.
amazing. And so when you really break down what's behind it for a client, what's the motivating factor, and you just say, Let's just talk as humans. Then they're more, open to saying, okay, I'll do the application. And I say, no cost, no commitment. It's just me doing my prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. I want to be able to see what, everything looks like behind the scenes. And then the best part is when you tell them they can buy a home and they're like, wait, what? I can? And then a month
Mm.
later, they're getting the keys. So I love that of, helping people build that confidence and getting a piece of calm in a place of chaos. So I
Yeah.
have such a sweet spot for first-time home buyers.
And do you find by helping them, and maybe this is a little bit different to your market because I would imagine, the price point in Fargo, North Dakota is going to be very different than somebody listening to maybe Denver or Seattle or LA. But for helping first-time home buyers, do you have clients where you've helped them get in young, maybe they've house hacked, and then even in a year or two later, they're like, they have that light bulb moment where they're like, this is the power of ownership, and that first time, like kind of hesitant, scared buyer is now feeling like super emboldened or like energized to like continue. Do you ever have clients that you help that are like wanting to move up or add more doors to their investment portfolio?
Yeah, it's those are the best as you do a check-in or hey, how's it going? And I actually talked to one of my clients that bought November 15th, 2024. Don't ask me why I remember. I think it was just such a special day. He was a young buyer in a small town and he was nervous. He was so scared. And then I talked to him about a year later. He had questions because on insurance, and we were chatting. And I said, "So tell me, you were really nervous when you bought. How are you feeling about that decision?" And he's like, "Oh my gosh, best decision I've ever made." He added flooring, he made improvements. And what's cool is like even some clients after a year or two seeing the equity that they've made and they go to sell, they're like, Kayla, is it too soon to sell? Let's just say we're 2.5 years in. And I'm like, no, I mean, it's really based on what you guys want to do and your goals. It is so cool to say, my gosh, your realtor is telling you you're going to list it for this much. People forget about this silent, equity gain.
Yeah.
People just think I'm renting for 2,000, my mortgage is 3,000. There's no way, like that's so silly. And I'm like, yeah, but in the meantime, you're making 20 grand over here in equity. And over 5 years, it's not timing the market, it's your time in the
Yeah,
market.
in the market. Yeah.
And that's how you create that. So that is one of the most common things I see with clients is like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that it was that like this could be done. And it's usually when they
Yeah.
go to sell or they go to like tap into equity.
Yeah. So cool. So let's talk a little bit about social media because, when you were talking about the first time home buyer and you made some references to TikTok, first of all, are you on TikTok?
I'm on TikTok. Yes,
You are.
I
Okay.
am.
I myself feel a little bit under a rock. I'm like, I am not on TikTok, but that shouldn't surprise me because I follow all of your social media channels and I had followed you for a long time before I actually ever even sent you a DM and was like, hey, and shortly after I connected with you, fun fact, I actually sent Jeff a message and I was like, you need to have her on your podcast because she is really just forward in your marketing and what you're doing. So let's talk about that on social media. And I know it's not about vanity metrics. It's really not about how many of followers that you have, although I think that is something. But I think it's more about the quality of conversations that you have and the things that we don't see, like the number of DMs that you're getting and conversations that you're having. So what would you say has been, out the gate, like the best advantage for you in having a social media footprint?
I love this question because for a while I was like, what's the point? I'm making, I'm sharing these things, I'm posting closings. This was like in 2016, 2017. And I'm like, is this like, this feels like a second job. Is this even worth it? What is so cool about social media is that you have this platform to build trust
Mhm.
without even having to convince a client. And here's what I mean by that. I had a client that got referred to me. Realtor said, hey, this client stopped in at an open house. I sent your info. They already know who you are. They follow your Instagram. That happened 3 times in a weekend. And to me, I'm like, okay, they know who I am. I get on a call with them and I'm like, hi guys, I'm Kayla, a little bit about me. The girl goes, I know all about you. You have 4 dogs. I love your content. I learned so much. And she's like, we have dogs. It is this instant like
Mm.
warmth and cozy and comfort versus you hand somebody a lender and you can't even find them on Google. Are they real? and you're like, okay, I'm going to call this person. They don't answer their phone. Like, social media is building trust without you even having to convince a client. And so for me, it's just another arrow in my quiver of getting in front of a client without having to share everything about me and convince them why they should use me. They're already looking me up, they're already following my stories. And a lot of times, they're not just choosing me because I'm a really great lender. They might feel, wow, she's really relatable. Or, oh my gosh, she has, like I said, dogs, and I have a dog. She seems like someone I can talk to,
Right.
a friend. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm seeing with social.
So you're on social a lot. And can you break that down a little bit? Like what platforms are you on? Let's start there.
So I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I have the most followers because I've been on LinkedIn for so long. I feel like LinkedIn is kind of a powerhouse that people forget about. It's not a job engine search only. It's not just for finding a job, it's for connecting with professionals.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram, which is directly linked to Facebook. It's amazing how many friends and followers you get on Facebook after being on it for 20 years. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So don't forget about Facebook. There's a lot of power there. And Instagram. And then, yes, I have TikTok. Now, my account got hacked a year and a half ago. So I had to rebuild, and that's okay. So I've got TikTok and I have YouTube that I'm slowly working in. I do a lot of my podcasts that we upload, but that's a whole other beast that you have to, figure out, and algorithms, things like that. But a lot of platforms, to be honest.
Okay, so I hear you. And just as somebody that does create content myself, I'm even listening and I'm like, whew, that's a lot. Because I mean, let's be honest, we can all say you just need to be everywhere, right? Like, I love, even Arjun had said the other day, like, the best known beats the best because, it's
Yes.
like whoever is the best known typically gets, the first call or whatnot. And so, yes, we all say like you have to be everywhere and get in front of as many people, but I find that's really overwhelming, especially if you're like, "Hey, I'm a loan officer first. I'm really good in sales. I've never met a stranger. I'm great in front of people." And like I just choke in front of the camera. Or one of the things I think some of our listeners might say, and I'm just going to say this on behalf of them, is like, okay, Kayla, you have, you talk about your lake house and you post a lot of photos about your dog and all of these, different things that you're interested in. What would you say to somebody listening if they feel like maybe they're boring and from the sense of, I don't know what to talk about on social and I don't just want to post the picture of my closings?
Oh, I think this is really common. And I think too that we forget about social media can really get you in that comparison trap. The comparison can be the thief of joy, or it can create some fire underneath of you to say, if I'm feeling this way, maybe there's something I'm missing. So there's a lot with social, right? It can be tiring. You're like, am I doing enough? I felt the same way. I'm like, I don't know if people are going to take me seriously. I feel like as a woman and being blonde, I'm like, do I have to work harder to have people take me seriously? And then I realized I am me. My heart is goofy. When it comes to my business, I'm solid. I'm strict. I'm straight. I'm very competitive. But what I would say to somebody is just start showing up, and I would say in stories. Stories are where the magic happens, and stories that everyone's going to see posted, but that's where there's DMs, and that's where people get to know you. If I struggle to get on and have this camera in front of my face, sometimes I'll just do like B-roll. Maybe I'll set my camera up while I'm working, my phone anyway, and then I'll put some words over it on a post. I would say find the places that you're finding yourself having conversations with clients, these aha moments. Where are the same conversations coming up? Tell the story about how you helped somebody. And so I think there's a couple ways to do it, and I think you just have to test it out. But show up as authentically you. Don't try to be everybody else. Try the stories, like just say, hey, I'm on my way to a closing. I helped this person. I don't know why, but I feel like that's just less pressure than a reel. And then that's
Yeah.
how I started on
Yeah.
doing reels. I'm like, okay, the stories, people were like, you should make that story a reel. And I'm like, oh, okay, because then you can share it. So
Right.
that's how I leaned into it. But you have to come in thinking you can't be perfect because you're never going to post. And you have to realize you're not for everybody. And that's okay because you don't want to be either. But I promise you that something you share, even if it helps one person realize they can buy a home, then that's not boring. You're doing exactly what you should be doing showing up online.
So, two things that I take away from what you just said, there's a lot, but two things that I take away is one, you have to understand that like you have to start somewhere, right? Like we're not all camera ready or influencer status. And so I think if you give yourself permission to start and say, hey, I understand, just like with money and wealth, like compound effort, like effort will compound over time, right? So the more that you practice and the more that you do it, the better it gets. But you also said something that I want to key in on, and that is to know who you're talking to. So, how do you approach that? Because I find a lot of people when they approach social media is they try to be all things to all people to have this infinite reach. And in return, they end up having like no influence because they're talking so broad. So, like, what
Mhm.
would you say about really knowing your audience?
I think it's, again, trial and error. I mean, you never know who's seeing your stuff because a lot of times people see your stuff, but they're not liking or sharing or commenting. But typically, what you're seeing is the magic in the DM. So I would say pay attention to the posts or the things that you put out there that are having clients ask questions. Whether it's, hey, did you know you can, make an extra payment a year and do this, or whatever it is that you're posting, just pay attention. But Katie, I don't know if there's really a way that you know who you're talking to, but just like how in our world, in our sales, in our business of mortgage, that you're always told you need to niche down, you need to have, who do you help most? We're always told this. So I would challenge somebody to try to niche down on some posts. Maybe say, are you a single mom that struggles with, understanding your finances and if you can buy a home? Or maybe you say, are you a medical professional and you struggle with, putting money down for your down payment when, you're not making the money yet, but you have a contract that you will be, like whatever it may be,
Yeah.
just niching down on the content. I mean, for someone like me, I might say, do you have a dog and are you sick of living in your apartment? Like I often kind of do this broader approach too, but when you kind of test it out, you'll
Yeah.
see who follows and who likes and what I found is you might help one doctor and what's happening is that doctor is going to tell their doctor. Or you might help this one dog groomer and that dog groomer is going to tell their dog groomer friends. So it's
Right.
kind of like birds of a feather, but you really just have to test it out and try to just niche down on your content. Pick one thing and go that route.
Well, I think you have to give yourself permission too, to kind of trial and error that way through it. And like you're saying, I mean, you can look in some of the analytics on the back end view counts and things like that. But one metric that I heard somebody share recently that they follow, and I liked the mindset is, and we talk about virality of like, oh, this post went viral, or I think sometimes people assume that to be successful in growing their business through social media is they need viral content. But what I recently, this mindset shift was viral for me. And what do I mean by that is like, hey, what does viral for you look like? That might be you share one story and you get 3 DMs out of that. Or maybe you get, a realtor who viewed it and has been following you for a while because there's people that follow, but they don't
Yeah.
engage. That's where it makes it really tricky. And then, maybe that's one post is what makes them decide, oh, I trust you. I will start sending you business. So rather than looking at the number of impressions or shares, which are really traditional metrics, I think they're really incorrect. If we look at it as a viral for me, what is the standard for you? So, can you talk to me? Do you have? I know you had mentioned in a previous conversation, you shared a carousel, and it was a little bit contrarian to what was going on in the current market.
Yes.
And then you got conversations all weekend out of that, but you actually got a lead directly from that from an out of state realtor. Am I correct?
Yeah, so long story short, but sometimes we get nervous to post things that might go against the grain or might be controversial.
Like you get nervous still with what you've built?
All the time, and I'd even delete stuff sometimes. So I'm like, oh my gosh, someone's gonna get offended. And I was just at this point where I get frustrated when I see headlines and then clients panic. And I'm like, why are people sharing these things? Like, why? We need to get to the truth and the source, and we need to educate the consumer. So, yes, I made a post and I'm like, do I do this? And I posted it on a Saturday morning, which doesn't usually go over well. It's usually, during the week. But this post everyone started sharing it because everyone in the industry was relating to it. They're like, oh my gosh, someone finally said it. And I had
Hmm.
many clients that asked to copy, or not clients, many other industry professionals asking to copy it because they're like, I want to share this. Well, what happened is people are sharing it because they want their audience to see it. And yeah, I had a couple different individuals in our industry reach out and say, finally, thank you for sharing that. And that leads to conversations, that leads to coffee, that leads to clients. But I'm not going to be that lender that's afraid to say the truth. And sometimes you got to do that through social. So that carousel, again, it wasn't a reel. Usually reels are what kind of, I guess, gain the most attention.
Yeah.
It was a carousel that you swipe through, and it was just me saying, "Hey, here's a real deal about interest rates and the headlines that you've heard." And yeah, it was scary to post, but I mean, I think that post I had more followers than I've ever had, and it was everyone in our industry. So now there's realtors that are like, "Wow, she's speaking the truth. I'm going to follow her." And guess what? We might now be in business and have a client together. Yeah, it's kind of taking that leap, and it's okay to be scared, but that's usually what leads to the most success is doing the things that are the most scary.
Yeah. So what you mentioned the contrarian, kind of taking a contrarian take, which doesn't most of your content doesn't really feel like that. So maybe there's something to be said about leaning in more to having, it's the say it louder for those in the back.
Yes.
Let's talk about, I'd be curious to hear, are you using AI? And how do you bring in AI to your content? Because it seems like you create a lot of original ideas, but how do you bring in AI to your content?
Well, truthfully, you find a friend in Katie Shive who tells you all the things that you need to hear. Upgrading from ChatGPT to the Claudes of the world, the Geminis, like there's so much out there, it gets to be overwhelming. But I truly think if you just take some time to understand how other options work for you, I mean, using Claude versus ChatGPT, just the output is so much more in depth and when you train it, so what I did is I had a brand book created that was plugged into Claude where it really understands my voice, my vision, who I am as a human, who I am as a professional. And what I do, and this sounds super simple, but I have these thoughts and I have these ideas, but I sometimes don't know how to get it articulated well. So when you can plug something in and say, hey, Claude, here's what I'm dealing with. I want to create a post, but I want this to be my audience. It is amazing how it can take your ideas and just have them just so much
Like
better.
organize it.
Yeah, like organized in a way that is digestible to the consumer because a lot of us lenders are like VOE, COE, PVOE, like we're saying all these acronyms, we have all these thoughts, but we have to remember sometimes we need AI to kind of, I want to say, not dumb it down, but bring it down to a digestible level. So I use it for, hey, I want to do a post about this. And it's amazing how it like takes my words, but also like maybe I want it to be softer or maybe I
Yeah.
want it to be edgier. And so I use it a lot for just post ideas. I've used it for a first time homebuyer webinar that I was doing, but it really is not supposed to replace me. It's supposed to almost enhance me, like take
Right.
my words and my vision and organize it. So that's what I've been using Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT the most for.
So you kind of bounce all over. One of the things I've heard from a few loan officers who have been hesitant to embrace AI specifically with social media is they're just concerned about authenticity. Like they're like, if AI writes it for me, then I didn't really say it. What would you say to somebody who's really struggling to lean into AI and maybe that is could they're leaning into AI actually help them get off the fence and create more content or content consistency? But what would you say to that specific statement that if they didn't write it specifically and AI helped, that it's not really them?
I say your competitor is going to do it and they're going to attract the consumer or the referral partner. I think that AI, yeah, you should be concerned. I still get online and I'm like, this is so chat GPT. My gosh, get rid of what are those long dashes, M
Oh, the
dashes?
M dashes.
We are still in that, like, come on, people. So you can totally tell. And I'm like, so I would challenge somebody to write it yourself, and then plug it in and have it fine tuned a little bit. Tell it what you want to do, speak it, take my words and polish it to reflect someone that's reading it as a first time buyer, whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, sometimes I post something and I'm like, it's just like there's something missing. If I'm a consumer and I'm reading this, there's something missing. I'll plug it into AI
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. It's not to replace you, it's to help you. I mean, it's no different than asking a friend, hey, how could I rewrite this? What's the difference between asking a friend, hey, if I posted this, would this make sense versus AI? You just cannot have it write it all for you. It's
Yeah.
very clear when that happens.
Yeah. No, it's really real when you start looking at some of the content. You can go to the extreme. I see this in I feel like it's more obvious in LinkedIn. Maybe that's a platform that I hang out on more, where you're just like scroll, scroll, scroll before you're like, oh, finally somebody's real voice, and how they
Yes.
would actually maybe talk. But you touched that you have the most followers on LinkedIn. And again, it's not about the follower count, but why do you believe that loan officers should be in LinkedIn?
I think it's a different market. I think a lot of your home buyers are probably on the Instagrams of the world. But
Mhm.
I think that your kind of B2B, maybe it's your lawyers, your financial advisors. Realtors aren't on there as much as they should be either. But to me, I'm getting more, hey, I have a company event. Could you come speak? Or I get a referral from somebody. I'm like, oh, who sent you my way? The other day, last week, someone said, oh, my boss told me he follows you on LinkedIn and I should talk to you. My biggest referral source in 2022 was from a group of financial advisors because one of them saw my posts, saw that I financed in South Dakota, did a deal for a doctor in South Dakota, had a good experience. He started using me, then told all of his financial advisors, you guys, 30% of my business, like what? From because I posted on LinkedIn that I could help someone in South Dakota. So I think that it's a way to do more B2B versus like B2C. And now there's still people that are going to reach out and want a loan in, whatever state that, is a home buyer. But to me, it's where the professionals are, the HR people.
Mhm.
How cool would it be to get in with HR at a company in town, at the clinic in town, and be like, hey, yeah, send me your people. It's just a different platform.
Yeah. Well, and I think I would argue that maybe your quality of referrals are also going to be different because again, if you're working with, professionals, they're probably coming to you, maybe their income is better or maybe I don't know. I mean, I just think that there's opportunity there. The other thing that's great and overlooked with LinkedIn is, it's you can do more long form content. Have you gotten into anything like newsletters or writing articles, or are you mainly just posting and having conversations?
In this season of life that I'm in, wild one, I am just really just posting when I can. I've not done newsletters. What I've started doing actually though is I will do a weekly email to partners if they want to be on this list and I'll just give like a quick like, hey, here's what rates are doing, here's a tip, something like that. But I think there's a lot of value in doing a LinkedIn newsletter because if you've got followers, you can easily say, hey, sign up for my newsletter and it's a click of a button. It's actually genius. I follow a lot of those newsletters because I'm like, yes. And what's great about that is you already have, whatever it may be, 1,000 people that you're connected with. If you just put out there, invite all these people to join your newsletter, I mean, why wouldn't you? But I haven't gotten there yet. But with the help of some friends in the industry, I think I will get there because I think there's a lot of value.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you can bring in add in value in terms of, your thought leadership. And like you're saying, I mean, if you went to go create a newsletter, what I do like about LinkedIn is it sends a notification to all of your followers like, hey, so and so just created a newsletter. Would you like to subscribe? So you're instantly getting a mass push from
Yes.
LinkedIn. And that comes through your inbox differently than if it was an email. And then second to that, every week or whatever cadence you subscribe to, when you post a new newsletter, your followers get notified as well. And so I do believe it's an underutilized strategy. So I would encourage you to lean into that since you are so active on LinkedIn. But for anybody listening, maybe you don't love the camera. Maybe YouTube is not your jam. Maybe you're not on TikTok. And maybe you have some really good ideas and you want to put that into more long form content. LinkedIn really is an underutilized platform. I think there's still a lot of room to get in to be adding real value in conversations.
Well, And let me be an example. We just got done talking about, hey, I've never posted a video. I've never posted on LinkedIn a newsletter, but I know the value. So it's like, how do you take that first step? How do you do that? And you want to know what? There's never going to be a perfect time. You just have to do it. And I started doing a realtor Zoom monthly, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've never done this. It's amazing when you do it once, how you're like, it's not so bad. Just give it a shot. You
The
want to know what?
Band-Aid off.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do it anymore, you don't. If you don't want to do the newsletter,
Yeah.
don't. If you don't want to do the Zoom, but at least you can try it and be like, oh, okay. And then get the feedback of, you added so much value. When I do my realtor emails, it's like, I had no idea. That's what this is about, community education and helping people with their businesses as well. So I think LinkedIn newsletters, it's next on my list.
Okay. So two more questions. This for people listening and they're like, okay, she's on TikTok, she's on Instagram, she's on LinkedIn, she's everywhere. I'm just going to ask the direct question. Do you have a big marketing team? Like, what is your kind of behind the curtains look like?
Katie. No. So for me, it's me right now. So it's me and my thoughts and my Canva. But one thing that I did do is I hired a VA. And now,
Okay. And then does
there's
that mean like do your marketing for you?
so yes and no. She helps me with ideas. She's helped me kind of get organized. One thing that I do love about her is she'll get ideas going. So she might create 4 posts and I'll use one of them. But I want to say 99.9% of the time I'm going in and I'm editing it like, oh, I want to change out this picture, what have you, this word. But she gets the ideas going. So I'll tell her, I'm thinking, here's some things I'm thinking of. She'll send me some ideas. She'll just go post that or like make the post in Canva. But then I go put my spin on it. So she's helping really get like juices flowing and the thought, the creativity side.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've had some things that I wanted to build. She's been so good at this. I'm like, I need a digital link for my clients to have like a buyer booklet. Like I want them to be able to flip through the process and I don't want to attach PDFs. Hey, Rochelle, can you make this into an electronic version? Or maybe I'll say, hey, I've got this event coming up. Can you make a flyer? So she's been able to take some things off of my plate, like uploading my podcast to YouTube was a huge feat. We had 100 and some podcasts, and so she was able to do that and then take clips and repurpose them for content. So again, it's not like she's like this marketing person that's designing everything. It's a collaborative effort of who's Kayla, what can Rochelle give lift on? Hey, can you help organize these things so that, I'm not all over the place? And that's been a huge lift because sometimes it's just getting that creative idea going, and she
Yeah.
does that for me. But
Well,
no,
it probably also, that you're paying her every month. So you're like, maybe it probably lights a little bit of a fire under you to be like, okay, I gotta like do more, to
yeah,
utilize this. So
yeah, and it's true. I have to, keep her busy because I am paying for her. But my gosh, the possibilities are endless of what I could do. But I'm in a season of life where I'm so busy that it's like you have to stop to take the time to give, almost train somebody. But it has been worth it.
yeah. So for everybody listening that's like, I don't have the time, not that we don't need to follow Kayla's exact example, but what would you say to people that are like, I just don't know where to start. I don't have the time. Like, what's the next thing that you would tell them?
I would ask, what is it that you want to do? What are your top 3 things? Maybe it is a newsletter. Maybe it is hosting a realtor Zoom. Maybe it is doing a home buyer webinar. When it comes to social media, one of the things that I did that got me kind of like, oh, this is a good idea is I follow Lender Crate. And it
Okay.
just had ideas for loan officers. I think Coffee and Contracts is one for realtors.
Realtors.
And I've done stuff like Punch the Monkey, like that.
Yeah.
I got an idea to like do something with Punch from like seeing that. So it's just like it's very trendy, but it gives ideas. But I would say get Canva, build out a few different templates that you can just switch out some pictures. Go get some photos taken. Your photo from like 10 years ago, like go refresh it. If you're nervous to take photos, people see you every day. Like that's how you look. Like go take some fun photos. Take some B-roll, set up your camera and just type and then put that on, in Canva or a reel and just put some words over it. You don't even have to talk. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I started, or that's kind of what I do for filler, Katie, is I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy this week. I'll send Rochelle a video of me and be like, hey, can you create this about a first time home buyer and add these stories or reviews? Like, there's a lot you can
Yeah.
do with just some B roll and some photos, you know? Little
Love me some B-roll. It has saved my bacon many days when I'm like, I don't have time. It's a good, yeah. I think, and the cool part about the B-roll is, you can do B-roll. And so for people listening that might be like, what is B-roll? That's just taking small, like an example would be like if you're flying somewhere, like take a 10-second video of the, picture outside your airplane in the clouds. Or if you're going for a walk, like, pan the pretty area that you're in or a sunset. So it's just background video that's not necessarily like talking head where it's straight on. And again, as listeners, you've seen this, when you're scrolling social media with it's words written over that. So cool. Well, we're gonna last and final question is if you could fix one thing about the mortgage industry, like overnight, you had the magic wand and you could fix one thing, what do you think it would be? What would it be? And what would it mean for the next generation of home buyers?
I would 1,000% say that I wish that I could wave my magic wand and people would stop rushing the process. Meaning going and looking at homes and saying, I'm going to wait for the perfect house to come out before I look at the finances. I wish that realtors wouldn't show houses until someone said I can afford it, because it creates this sense of rushing and then they don't take the time to get educated. So many times I see people that do it the right way and they're confident and they're comfortable and they're excited and they understand it and they're getting a really great deal. And then when I see the ones that are just not taking the time, I see it fall to pieces. I see them get stressed and no one wants to deal with it. It's stressful enough to move to buy a house. So I just wish that people would take their time. And that could just mean having a conversation, doing an application, and then just waiting to go look at homes, because so many times I've had to tell people on Friday of last week, Katie, I had clients that want to write an offer and they're like, hey, is the pre-approval done? What can we do? They wanted to write an offer for 300. I could pre-approve them for $85,000. And they were crushed and and that is the worst. And here's the deal is like, if we could just prepare, it's not a no, it's just a roadblock. How are we going to get past this? To me, I just think that for the biggest purchase of your life, it's worth doing your homework before the night before it's due. That's what I would change.
So, so good. Okay. I love it. Well, on that note, thank you for just your time. Thank you for popping in. We will make sure to put all of the show notes in the bottom. So for all of our listeners, you will know exactly how to go find Kayla. And what would you say? Like, you want them to send you a DM if they want to take this conversation any deeper?
Yeah, DM, my phone's out there, my email, whatever way is easiest for you. Yeah, I don't miss my DMs though. So shoot me a DM if you want to chat. I'm here in any capacity. And if you want social media tips or talk mortgage, or you're a home buyer, or maybe you just want to just have a new friend in the social media world, like Katie, I've never met you in person and feel like I already know you. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back next week with another episode. So make sure to follow along and we'll be back next week.
thanks, Katie.